I'm dealing with some allergies here, if you couldn't tell already, so just bear with me. It's like the instant anything is able to grow around here, my nose gets stuffy and my voice is disgusting. And yes, I am positive it's allergies and not the big bad pandemic sick that's going around right now. Anyway, yes, I have seen all your messages and comments asking for more Hypixel story times. I get it. Let's do the damn thing. This is a story I've been sitting on for a while. I was very unsure if I wanted to tell it because I didn't know if it would be interesting enough, and I didn't want it to be too negative, like I don't want it to seem I'm just bashing on certain people, but I figured it'd be fun to talk about. So I'm currently in a guild on Hypixel run by one of my friends that is very casual and chill, not even a little bit competitive, no major guild events, very much an uninvolved background sort of thing, which was the whole reason I was interested in joining. I severely dislike guilds on Hypixel that are super try-hard, but if that's your playstyle and being super competitive is your jam, then that's wonderful for you. Live your best life. But for me, it is a nightmare based on a past negative experience with a guild of that nature. It started years ago in 2014, back when I was still a moderator on the network. I'd been in a few other guilds that gave a very forgettable experience, but this one was memorable for all the wrong reasons. I was invited to a guild called Altitude, which has since disbanded and was run by someone who I'm going to call Dan, who I believe was banned several years ago. In fact, I don't think anyone involved with this story is still around anymore. So Dan sent me a message, not only extending an invite to his guild that had tons of people and was actually kind of popular at the time, but he offered to promote me to an officer immediately upon joining. I was already in another guild at the time, but I'd been considering leaving anyway, since every time I came online, the other members would fawn over me and make a huge deal about my mere presence, which was kind of uncomfortable and awkward, which I mentioned to Dan along with my dislike of raging tryhard guilds. Keep that in mind for later. I also immediately noticed upon checking members of the guild that many of the other officers were other staff members, helpers and moderators, a couple YouTubers, and even an admin briefly. And it seemed a little odd, but Dan insisted that this guild would be perfect for me, so I agreed to join. However, at the time I was out of town for a couple weeks, which happened to be the trip I took to visit Proline, and didn't have access to my computer to join the server. Dan was very eager for me to join as soon as possible. He was messaging me every other day asking if I'd returned yet, even though I told him it'd be a couple weeks, and he kept asking if there was any way for me to come home early, or if I could find a computer to access, or use a chat app to join the server. Then once I did come back, he talked about how much the community missed me and how they were waiting for me. He was extremely impatient and kinda weird. This should have put me off right away, and if I'd been smart, I would have backed out, but I chose to still join. And almost immediately, I was having problems with super competitive players in the guild who would rage in guild chat and randomly start getting nasty with me just for being a mod, and not being available immediately to come and ban someone for them. And I talked to Dan about how much I wasn't digging this sort of environment, and he was like, "Oh no, please don't leave. I'll do whatever you want. I'll kick the problematic people and you can mute them. Do whatever you want. Just please stay. Don't ever leave. Please, please, please. Please." So I stayed, even though it was very rare that something would actually ever happen with these problematic people because they had high stats in certain games. And of course, Dan was all about collecting guild members that could help him gain status and notoriety. So he wanted to stay on everyone's good side and even made most of them officer of the guild. It was not a good time. I kind of hated it actually. Especially since I was constantly being spammed by guild members, asking me to add them as a friend or to be their personal banning slave. And if I was ever busy or something, they'd get bitchy and it wasn't fun at all. But Dan kept telling me stuff like he really appreciates me being in the guild, and because of me, the guild is a special place, being way over the top with the compliments. So I was an absolute sucker and stuck around because I would have felt guilty if I ended up making him sad. He specifically would also constantly ask me to give out mod emeralds on his posts, which was a rating that only moderators could give on the forums, and I kept telling him, no, I'm not going to spam you with ratings you didn't earn, especially especially since the management had specifically asked us to use them sparingly. And he would also ask me to edit other people's guild threads, just the silliest things. Then several months into joining came one fateful day that marked the beginning of the end, not just for my time in the guild, but for Dan's time on the server. I got a message from some random person saying that someone in their Walls game was exploiting by hiding under the bedrock in the map and making it impossible to kill them. I teleport to the game to check it out, and look who it is, just chilling out under the map. It was Dan. Now this was extra annoying, not just because he was my guild leader and I'd have to punish him, but since I joined, he had me come to ban other players in his games for doing the exact same thing, since it is against the rules to do that. So he knew full well it was bannable, and I messaged him to say, listen, you're breaking the rules, I'm recording evidence, and you need to get out from under the map and face the other team waiting for you, or jump into the void, or I'm just gonna have to ban you. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have any blocks, so I'll jump into the void, just to hold on a minute. So I waited, and waited, and kept waiting. I messaged him like, what are you doing? You need to end this game now. And he says, oh, don't worry, I will in just a bit. And he kept stalling, and I was checking the game timer, and it seemed like he was trying to run out the clock and make the game result in a tie. I gave him so many opportunities, and he knew it was against the rules to be outside the map. So then with only seconds left in the game, I had to give him a temporary ban because he just wasn't listening to my warnings. And of course, right away, his brother starts frantically messaging me, demanding to know why I would dare to ban him. Dan contacts me on the forums, acting super offended, like, why would you do that? I didn't know it was against the rules, and I was just about to jump. If I knew it was bannable, I wouldn't have been down there. Which obviously was a whole lot of bullshit, and I was so annoyed, especially because for the next 14 days, since this wasn't his first offense, I think he might have hacked one time, he kept begging me to unban him or to talk to the manager to get his appeal accepted, even though I was the one who banned him in the first place. But since he was such a staff suck-up and wanted to be popular, he was worried about how it would tarnish his image and that the guild would just fall to pieces in his absence. Eventually, his ban expires, time goes on, and apparently he gets into some beef with another now disbanded guild called Black Chroma, because supposedly they lied about winning a guild versus guild competition with Altitude, and Dan got really salty about it. Because of course, having a loss on the record would make him and his guild look bad. And one of Black Chroma's members even made a fake screenshot to get Dan banned for sending death threats. So that was a huge drama situation that, of course, I got sucked right into the middle of. Then a while later, a guild server was made, and it started as guild exclusive with the intention to add mini games and stuff and open it up to the public. But in the meantime, it was mostly just a normal survival server with some extra things. We also allowed some other guilds to join and made it like a collaboration sort of thing. Dan had also made me staff manager because I was one of the older and more responsible guild members, but there were a lot of issues that resulted from this damn server. There were well-known ragey players who were guild officers that kept kicking people from the guild just for the fuck of it. There were some of those same people who would get mad at me on Hypixel and then hop onto the guild server thinking they can really ream into me all they want and say all sorts of awful things and get no consequences. But at the time, there was a rule where harassing staff members outside the server would result in a punishment on the network, so the joke's on them. Officers also had special permissions on the server, and they would essentially abuse their permissions by messing around with members who were just trying to do their own thing, and the officers would get pissy if everyone didn't go along with the joke. And I tried numerous times to explain to Dan that just because someone is a popular Hypixel player or they have good stats in a game doesn't mean they're fit to be an officer for a guild of this size with what Dan wanted it to be. But no matter how profane or rude or irresponsible someone was, it didn't matter as long as they were a skilled player or had some sort of status, because that's what Dan wanted. If the whole guild is on board with being a dumpster fire, then that's cool, again, live your best life. But Dan was all about maintaining a pristine image, so it did nothing but stress everyone out when these try-hard players who, more often than not, were very hot-headed and impulsive and incapable of listening or following rules, were put in a position of authority and causing trouble for everyone else and giving the guild a bad reputation, which had Dan absolutely panicking. There was one specific officer who was consistently causing problems, being rude to me and other staff in the guild, both on Hypixel and on the guild server, which resulted in a few punishments on Hypixel and having to be banned from the guild server. It got to the point where I literally could not log onto Hypixel without this person making some sort of scene, like, "You make me puke," or "Don't say hi to her or she'll get upset." He did this with all the staff members in the guild, and I was beginning to dread just logging onto the server to have to deal with this guy. I would start checking to see if he was online before joining the server, and if he was, I wouldn't log in, because I just didn't want to deal with that headache, because this was also around mid-2015 when I was dealing with some serious health issues at the time. I got so fed up, and I messaged Dan and told him, this guy needs to go. You need to stop babying these people and step up as a guild leader or I'm out. Everything I hated in a guild is exactly what this was to a T. This was way more drama than probably anyone ever wanted out of a freaking block game. This is a Minecraft server. It shouldn't be this difficult. This individual did get kicked, but it always felt like there was another problematic person taking their place. And I got tired of having to babysit troublesome guild members on Dan's behalf, and he was frequently complaining about his guild dying since so many members were being driven away because it had become such a mess. So I just quit. It was kind of a bummer because by then I think I had been in the guild for about a year and put a lot of time and effort into it, but it was just a chore by then and I hated it. Guilds are supposed to be fun and allow you to hang out with friends and like-minded people who have similar goals for the game, but that whole experience was just a freaking nightmare. Now I'm in a casual guild run by a friend and it fully suits me. If for some reason it ever disbands, I think I'll just be guildless, because after this whole thing with Altitude, I absolutely hate guilds. Eventually, Dan got permanently banned because he had become such a nuisance to everyone, especially to the staff, just spiraling downward into such a constantly frantic state that the manager decided to just keep him off the server for good. So that's my story. Thank you very much for watching. I'd like to give a special thank you to my executive producer tier patrons, Doggies Doha, Emily, Jordan, Kyle, and Tinix Fan. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!